Hey everybody, time for another midweek chat. It is September 25th, so that's good. Hey, I was bicycling with Kevin, a parishioner who does these long bike rides, and he was kind enough to tour me around. This is west of County Highway H. I'd never really messed around here too much, except on County E when I used to go between Menominee and Eau Claire, but so it's pretty far away. So I drove out. I didn't ride my bike for various reasons. One, that's a pretty long ride, but also some things going on today. But anyway, it's pretty, isn't it? So you got that big irrigation system there that rolls through the fields, and then out there you got some cornfields. And these, I was like, well, what was this? Did they harvest corn here, or was it hay? You know? And my first clue was this. This was one little thing sticking up that didn't get harvested or chopped down. And I'm pretty sure this is a soybean plant. So I was like, oh, soybeans. And then I looked around and I saw these pretty red. I thought, oh gosh, I'm finding a ruby, just like in one of my favorite folk tales, finding a ruby in the field. But it's a great story. I won't tell it now. And then anyway, but these red things were these things. See them? So I guess those are soybeans, you guys, right from the field. So they must have been ripe, and when the reaper, or the harvester, the soybean combine came along, they didn't make it into the harvest. So there's all kinds of stuff there. I could feed myself for weeks. Maybe I'll grab a few more. I think they'll just go to waste if they're just laying on top of the soil, you know. So I don't know if they're any good. They're soft. I didn't think they would be soft. They're good. Okay, I'll go get some more before I leave. So that's cool. I was excited to be here because when I was riding my bike, I said, look at these vast fields. I can kind of give you a little more of a... It's off to the west, right? South. North. There's a big bar here. East one. Anyway, it's that time of year. It's the harvest, right? All our great farmers are bringing the work of the fruit of their labors home to feed us. So it's a little bit of a north wind. I hope it's not too oppressive. I feel it's kicking up right now. I'll try to keep my hand over here. So I got my hand here to try to block the wind from hitting the speaker. Okay, so got this coming up. So a lot of our events I was promoting are either kind of booked already, so there's no need to I cut myself to advertise, but this will be open to everybody, and it'll be on October 22nd, Tuesday, and the great Stephanie Saldana is going to come to visit us. She'll stay overnight in our apartments up at our office, and I'll pick her up in Minneapolis the day before. And she lives in Bethlehem now. She's doing her Midwest book tour about her interviews with the refugees. And our group will meet to discuss this book the Thursday before. So she's here on October 20th. So October 17th, we'll have a little meeting. So if anybody wants to read this book and talk about it, we'll do that the previous Thursday, October 17th. Okay, so we're excited about that. What else is going on in the parish? Got Narcan training. So unfortunately, there's a lot of opioid use and abuse, and people dying from things like fentanyl. And so the public health department suggests that any kind of public group has Narcan available. It's like an antidote if someone's in danger of dying from an opioid overdose. And I don't really know all the details about how they would end up at church if they're having an opioid overdose, but I believe it. And so that'll be this Sunday at 11:40. So Mass goes till 11 or so, and then some hospitality time, and then 11:40. I realize, as I was asking Christine, what time is that Narcan thing? I realized that it's the day of the Packers-Vikings game. Pretty big game, and that's at noon. So difficult choices, but we do want to have people like our ushers and staff who can be there to, maybe save a life one day. So, okay, so that's a thing we've been planning for a long time. Hey, thanks to Mark Seifer and Mike Niggin, kind of stepped forward to said, hey, I will be part of that core of people that can help with the grounds and the lawn mowing and things like that next year, because we're trying to make a transition. Some of that Jim Forrester has been trying to step aside for many years. He's so very good and meticulous and caring and conscientious about it all. But all good things must come to an end, and he wants to kind of get out of that, I think, which is right and good. Yeah, you hate to have volunteer stewardship service in a parish be like a prison sentence where you can never get out. Sometimes people have to just make that decision to say, I've done this long enough. And sometimes it can put a chill of panic in the organizers, like the pastor or Christine or whoever. But I think we understand that. So if you ever get a feeling like from us that we're trying to guilt you into staying, I hope that's we can get over that. That's our problem, not yours. So. And I know Christine's very good at that. She understands that very well. So let's see. Animal blessings. Feast of St. Francis, right, is October 4th. That's a Friday. Who wants to stay after school on a Friday? Nobody. So we're going to have the pet blessings on Wednesday, October 2nd, after school, 3:30, in the main parking lot, on the 11th Street parking lot, or maybe just on the lawn. And I'll dress up in my robe and a little rope around my waist, try to get that St. Francis feel. So, I wrote in the bulletin, one of my favorite religious relics that I've ever seen in my life, probably my favorite religious relic that I've ever seen in my life, was the robe clothing of St. Francis of Assisi. In 2004, I was able to go to Italy with my brother and my mom, and one of our stops was Assisi, and in the crypt in the Basilica of St. Francis, where his body is, they had a glass display with 3 of his robes around it. And it's like, whoa, he really did dress like a beggar. It was just kind of a most basic cloth you can imagine, kind of pulled over with kind of short sleeves and going down to a little below the knees, and room for a rope to cinch it all up. And these saints are like the ones that are Jesus contemporaries. They're just kind of beyond us. We don't really have any. I don't know. You go to Rome, and there's the bones of St. Peter. They think are pretty authentic there underneath St. Peter's Basilica, and you have some things like that. But actually, even clothing, it's like you can see they wore this. You can imagine a person wearing this. It's a little different than like a physical relic, like a piece of the person's body. I was just very, very taken with that. Like, wow, Francis really did wear this, and he lived among the poor, and he knocked on doors and begged for food, and this is what he was wearing. No need to look any better than anybody else, but very, very humble. So anyway, his pet blessing will be on the 2nd, because he's also, besides giving his life in solidarity with the poor and kissing the leper and renouncing all wealth and just living from the grace of others and God, he loved creation. He liked to be in the woods. He had this beautiful poem that we put to music, or someone did. Was it Marty Haugen? Canticle of the Sun. The heavens are telling the glory of God, and all creation is shouting for joy. Come dance in the forest, come play in the fields, and sing to the glory of the Lord. So that's Francis. That's his joyful. It's based on his poem that he wrote. He's one of the first really person that wrote stuff called the Canticle of the Sun. But he loved that nature. So pets, and preach to the birds, right? There's a beautiful fresco in that basilica I just talked about, where I think I have a copy of it somewhere. He's preaching the word of God, the good news, to this group of birds around him. So, like the animals, we'll have 3:30, and then also at 6 o'clock before our religious ed starts at 6:15. So, Julie's going to bring a horse. You can bring whatever animals you want. Our I wrote a little bit about animals in heaven in the bulletin, so it's a little if you want to curious about that. St. Francis, a lot of St. Francis is in the news a lot lately because it's his 800th anniversary of a lot of things. So he died in 1226, and so that'll be a big year, the 800th anniversary of his death. I think I mentioned that in the chat a week or two ago. That's the 800th anniversary this year of his stigmata, receiving the wounds of Christ in his hands, his side, and his feet. A few years ago, it was the 800th anniversary. Or was it last year? It was the 800th anniversary of the first nativity scene, because he was the one who started that. That's why we had the nativity scene up in the sanctuary for Advent. There's this beautiful prayer. I don't think I've ever been part of it. I was going to be part of it when I was that year. I got to study in Berkeley at the Jesuit school in 1995-96. There was also the Franciscan school across the street, and it's a big deal for Franciscans on October 3rd. His feast is October 4th, but I think they mark his death as October 3rd, which is a little unusual. I'm not sure if it's just kind of the eve but they celebrate this what they call the Transitus of Francis, and it's can be very beautifully done. We tried doing it at campus ministry in Stout, that I think, the students just weren't that into it. I probably didn't plan it that well, but it's just a lot of candlelight, a lot of darkness. It commemorates. There's a lot of his words that are part of the ceremony. It commemorates the Transitus, the transition, the moving from this life to the next. So Francis is passing, his death into the next, and his birth into the next life, right? And so I thought in 2 years, it'll be 2026, that'd be 800 years from it. Maybe we can really try to do some forethought and have a beautiful ceremony of the Transitus of St. Francis. So, TV Mass. So this will be a big deal. We did a few time changes. So I don't know if I wrote about it or talk about it yet, but the diocese sponsors a Mass for the homebound, and a lot of them are filled down in La Crosse, but they are on the road, and they're coming to Eau Claire on Halloween. So October 31st, I think it's a Thursday, and we'd like to get people there to come. It's not going to be at St. James, though. It's going to be at St. Olaf, and Father Krasinski will preside at the Eucharist. The first two Masses they film, and then we will preside. We will celebrate Mass with St. James community, but in St. Olaf's Church. The first, it'll be for the second, even though it's Halloween, it'll be for the second Sunday of Advent and the third Sunday of Advent. So, but as many people, so we're going to supply the servers, the readers, music, a priest, and but a lot of people can come. It'll be fun. You can see yourself on TV. But I don't even know if we need to know, but if you want to come, show up at 11 o'clock on Halloween. I'll be promoting this in the weeks ahead at St. Olaf's Church. I'll be coming from the nursing home Mass, but I should get there with some minutes to spare. It only takes a half hour. It can only be a half hour. So, because the TV time they buy is 30 minutes, right? So it's kind of a streamlined Mass. But if you're able to do that, it'd be kind of a nice, fun little parish event, okay? So they'll film that on Halloween, and then it'll be broadcast on the second and third Sundays of Advent. So we're gonna Francis's Transitus, or his death. He says some really beautiful things that I was thinking of when Gordy Swatsina, we had his funeral. I thought to myself, golly, kind of legendary in his good humor and his service to people, to the parish, to the wider community. And I was just wondering, I wonder how his family, his kids, maybe his sons in particular, felt about all that in their hearts, Obviously proud of their dad, happy to have a dad that was so well loved and everything. But if I'm just putting myself in their place, I might think, boy, how am I doing? My dad was just so fantastic, and now this is no comment, I think they're all doing fine. But I was very impressed with the family members I met. But regardless of that, I just thought, and I thought of St. Francis. He said when he died, he turned to, because he was larger than life, did so much, right? He told his brothers that were gathered around him, he said, okay, I've lived my life now. I've done what was mine to do. Now it's for you to do what is yours to do. So you don't have to be me. You don't have to be Gordy. You have to be you. I remember a book I read some years ago. It was a very good book. It was based on the writings of Thomas Merton, but I think it was written by James Martin, Jesuit priest. And the title was Becoming Who You Are. And the premise of the whole thing was that that's our call, to become who we are. We're not made to be Francis. We're not made to be Gordy. We're not made to be Mother Teresa. They all did very well what was theirs to do. And what is Tom's to do? And what is Mary's to do? What is Delilah's to do? And that's the spiritual journey. That's the spiritual journey of discernment and praying. And we know basic things. We're supposed to love well. We're supposed to try to have deeper faith and trust in God. Those are all common denominators, but how they show up and how they, that was a good thing for me to hear. I remember when I was studying to be a priest, and all my heroes, because one of the reasons probably I became a priest was I was so inspired by a lot of spiritual leaders and talks I heard. I thought, boy, this is important to me, the spiritual life, and maybe I can use some of the gifts I was given to lend inspiration to others. Nothing's more satisfying for a priest, at least for this priest, than if someone says, boy, thank you for saying that, or thank you for doing this. It was really inspiring to me. I think, wow, that's why I'm in this, And so, but all these guys that I admired, they were all like personality-wise completely opposite of me. So if you ever took like a Myers-Briggs inventory, they were all ENFPs, and I am an ISTJ, so like the opposite. So it sets up a little frustrating situation. If you want to be like John Shea, if you want to be like Richard Rohr, forget it. If you're an ISTJ, you can't do that. You can be grounded in the same values, but you're going to be different. So, becoming who you are and accepting the limitations and the special gifts that each of us has, and trying to discern what those are and put them at God's service. What would you have me do? What would you have me do, oh God? As I am. You love me as I am. You gave me the skill set that I have. What should I do with it? Help me become more deeply who I am in your love. So it's good. I read an article in America Magazine. Got it here. Wim Wender's Perfect Days finds joy in the most mundane of tasks. Okay, so I didn't know what that was, and I thought, boy, I'd like to see that movie. It's streaming right now, but on Hulu, so I don't have Hulu. But maybe you have Hulu, and maybe you'd like to watch this. But I really loved it. Apparently it's about a Japanese fella whose job is collecting garbage. No, it's cleaning public restrooms. And it's about kind of his life and his daily rituals. He's single, he lives alone. This is all just based on a 3-page article I read. And seeing beauty in everyday life. And, there's kind of a lesson, like, I don't know, we go to Facebook and we kind of see everybody's traveling all over France or Italy or something. It just looks great, and we're kind of stuck home, and or they're doing this with their families, and we don't have that kind of family. Or sometimes what is it to be okay? What is it to be a success? What is it to feel good about our existence? That's the danger of social media. We're always kind of comparing ourselves to each other. And nobody really, well, some people do, I've seen a few, but generally puts up on Facebook their lonely days, their sad days, their days of self-doubt, their days of not being able to do what they want. And so, anyway, this is about this guy, and he says he's a public toilet cleaner who lives alone. He goes about his days in almost ritualistic fashion. He rises, waters his collection of saplings he's cultivated from city parks, buys a canned coffee at a vending machine, and listens to cassettes on his drive to work. His job is humble and hands-on, but he approaches it with care and precision. Eats lunch in the same park every day, sometimes pausing to photograph the light through the trees. And has a simple dinner at a train station restaurant, and he ends the night reading, and he goes to bed, and the next day begins again the same way. But it's kind of like finding depth and pleasure in the everyday. I guess that's what mundane means. Nothing too fantastic, but just the daily tasks. And there's this Japanese word, komarebi. It's the beauty of sunlight shimmering through the leaves as they sway in the wind, throwing dappled shadows. There's one word for that in Japanese. That's the kind of thing, if you ever just are sitting and those days are beautiful, sunny days with trees and a little wind in the breeze, where you just kind of can sense the moment. And it's beautiful. And life is full and your heart is full, even though you're not really doing anything. You're just part of something beautiful, Can you hear these crickets? Sunny day, beautiful wispy clouds in the sky, harvested soybeans, corn waiting, crickets chirping. It's beautiful, It's a good, now is good. And so I think it explores, that movie apparently explores that. Life, even though he sometimes has to go without pleasures that other people have or can afford, he also has a life filled with meaning, joy, and profound appreciation of the present moment. His life is simple, but is not one of deprivation. He is content not because he has settled for less, but because he has discovered deep meaning and beauty in a life that others would demean or reject. Anyway, it doesn't sound like a great movie. I would just love to see it. Maybe it'd be kind of slow and dull. I don't know. So if you have Hulu, it's called Perfect Days, like today. There's that Buddhist phrase, whoever ceases to desire has all things. I like this portrait of this Japanese man a little better than that, as far as finding peace without having all the bells and whistles in life. Appreciate, really what's there. Doesn't mean suspending all our desire. But there's wisdom in that Buddhist phrase as well, that's for sure. Okay, I think I can put these sheets down. Step on them so they don't blow away. Already talked about this, so I can put that down. Oh gosh. Okay. All right. What else? I guess I just got really discouraged today reading. My mantra for the day is the more I pray for peace in the Middle East, the worse it gets. And we read in scripture, just keep praying, And I'm not sure what to do. If it's a right, you're a congressperson, it depends how you feel about the issues, I guess. But man, it just gets worse. And there's the new front of war opening up in Lebanon. There's the Gaza that continues. But what really hurts my heart the most, because I've been there, is the West Bank. And so there's Jerusalem, way up to the north is Lebanon, halfway there is the Sea of Galilee, and to the south of the Sea of Galilee is what they call the West Bank. It's the West Bank of the Jordan River. And it also extends south of Jerusalem, kind of in a kidney shape with a little gap where Jerusalem is. And that includes Bethlehem and Hebron and biblical cities like that. And the news I read in the Haaretz newspaper that I subscribe to out of Israel, Israel's just really doing a lot of violence in the West Bank. And no doubt there's some terrorists that live there. And it's like, we're like in this field. The analogy I thought of, I don't want to upset anybody. The whole thing's upsetting to me, so I'm just kind of telling you why, I guess. It's like if there's some weeds in the field, are you going to scorch the whole field because you don't like the weeds? It's a little bit like that weeds in the wheat parable that Jesus tells, but they're just ripping up civilian infrastructure. There's all these stories. This is more the northern West Bank, away from Bethlehem, and they have this big spike on a land moving machinery and it goes into the main into the roads, destroys the road, breaks water mains. Water is so precious there. And there's this little video I saw of all the water just gushing down the streets. It's, wasted. People need it to live. And all people with businesses that they're just destroying businesses with bulldozers. I mean, just pretty gross. We have the power, we have the guns, we have the bulldozers. We're going to destroy your businesses. And one guy, he had a jewelry store and it was just destroyed. I forget if it was the jewelry store or not. He said since the last, that awful Hamas attack on October 7th last year, coming up on the year anniversary, his store has been demolished or attacked or damaged by Israeli military 10 times. And he's had to rebuild it. It cost $20,000 each time. He's like, well, how long can you do that, One of the quotes in the article I read, so there's a feeling among Palestinians across the West Bank that what is coming is very bad, like it's not already, that what is coming is very bad, that it will be a plan to kill and to expel us. I mean, that's certainly how they're being treated. Like, you have no right to be here, you have no rights. If we think there's any terrorist cell anywhere around, we're just going to flatten the streets. And, there's like this nice little fountain roundabout area with, I saw little video clips. It was on the New York Times today, if you want to try to find it. And it's plowed over, just unending string of raids. Drones constantly flying overhead. There's more air attacks. Just this sense of fear. One family said, every other night we move and stay with someone else. We used to have a big home. Now we just move and stay with someone else, someone different every night. Hope you can hear this okay. I see the wind is picking up. I have my hand here to try to block the wind. Anyway, so my heart just goes out to that. I don't know. And I hear the rhetoric from us, because we're their big supplier of arms and things, saying that it has to stop, but it never stops. And I talked to Majdi yesterday. He's a friend in Bethlehem. I got him on the phone, and he said it's just really hard. He didn't have a miserable face. He was happy to talk to me. He was smiling. I mean, life goes on. They have each other, but it's tough. He said there's just no income. Nobody's making any money. And sometimes he says, I go to my shop and I just sit, but there's absolutely no tourists here, and people can't work in Israel now. And so we'll be ordering some stuff from Majdi to sell in November, getting ready for Christmas. And the people in Parish will get some stuff there. And I have a friend, Alfred. I didn't get to talk to him. We have this screening, so I couldn't get out. And if I go home, I can call him on WhatsApp and do a call, but I couldn't do it from the office. So hope to talk to Alfred soon. He has a little shop, and he just, in the little text we exchanged, he said, since October 7th, he said zero business. So, just a lot of suffering all over the place, too. And I would imagine the Israelis, I mean, I know they are, too, and they relied on Palestinian workers, and now those aren't allowed to come in and work. So I don't know how it all is working out, but it's a tough deal. Continue to pray. So anyway, so that's been on my heart a little bit. Here comes a big truck. He's probably hauling soybeans. Isn't that great? I found all these soybeans. So anyway, our hearts go out to people in all the world. People in the world are suffering, all these places. And let's do pray. Let's do hold sorrow in our hearts. Let's do try to live justly and walk humbly with our God in our own little spheres of influence. And grieve together. It's part of being Christian, I think, is grieving. So, okay, can't think of anything else really right now that I need to say. I'm sure I'll get back, and I forgot this, I forgot that. Okay, all right. Okay, I'll let you enjoy the big field here. God bless you, everybody.